What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Vlad. Is it Arakcheyev?
Arakcheyev.
Arakcheyev, exactly. And how you doing today, Vlad?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And, Vlad, you're known for knowing everybody. I'm kind of known for knowing everybody as well. But I got to tell you, one thing that's really exciting about today is I've got my very favorite audience member watching today. And why is my favorite audience member watching today? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate syndicators, buyers, sellers, all that kind of stuff. And why do I do that? Well, part of it is because it's the law. If you want to share private deals with each other, you have to have a prior substantive relationship, and whatever that means. And that basically means that you got to make sure that people actually know what they're doing, and then you know what their core competencies are, what contributions they're doing, and all that kind of fun stuff. But before we get too excited with that, Vlad, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Vlad Arakcheyev. I'm based out of Jersey. I am a full-time syndicator, and also I'm a full-time real estate agent in Jersey. I buy in Texas primarily, Kansas City, Missouri. Those are my markets. Recently expanded into North Carolinas, and got a JV in Florida.
Excellent, excellent. A busy guy, and we're going to go through the 5 distinct motivations in a second. But I don't know, Vlad, if you can see through the camera and into the audience's device. But under, yeah, I say, but wait, check your aid. It's under there. Can you see if they have the red subscribe button, or if they switch to the gray one? No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. But it's important to subscribe. But I like to go through the 5 different distinct motivations among commercial syndicators and investors, because that way I know what's going to keep this person going. It's not like making commercial acquisitions is the easiest process, most pain-free process on earth. But the first reason why some people are making these acquisitions is because they're trying to preserve their purchasing power. And what that's all about is, if you are the type of person who has a portfolio of assets, and then the cash flow that comes from owning those is how you make your ends meet, well, periodically you're going to make new acquisitions just to stave off inflation and make sure that your purchasing power is still in good shape. That's not my big motivation. My big one, because I've got a background in tech, which means I'm a high earner, whoop-de-doo, it means that I end up paying more in taxes than anybody else, because income and salary is the worst. Specifically, my background is in CRMs. I've owned a CRM agency since 2011 after working for web.com. But what hit me as I was building that agency is it makes more sense to pivot and then work in return for deployed capital rather than for income and then funding, Washington, D.C. and whatnot. But the other reason why a lot of newbies are attracted to commercial real estate is they're either leaving the door open for retirement or they're fast tracking it. But more accurately, they want to take control of their schedule, of their time. So maybe that means working fewer months per year. Maybe it means fewer weeks per month. Who knows what it is, but that's what some people are up to. But those people are in vast contrast to the last two, because they're trying to, these guys are trying to scale back a little bit. Whereas if you're super duper ambitious, you want to buy your entire hometown, you want your name on skyscrapers and all that kind of stuff, then you're after that generational wealth, making sure that your great grandchildren never have to hold a day job, that sort of thing. And these guys are fantastic because they'll be hustling into their 90s. Just like the final group of the 5, there are some people who've picked a sector of society. Maybe it's the environment, maybe it's animals, maybe they want to send people to space. Who knows what it is, but they've realized if they want to make a really big impact, then they're going to have the financial side all buttoned up. So of those 5 motivations, Vlad, what combination of those would you say describes you best?
I think, in my opinion, true wealth is freedom of time. That's the biggest thing for me.
Hmm.
I can work, listen, I can work 15 hours straight, but I can just get up and go anywhere I want, or I can do it elsewhere. That's the biggest thing for me.
Hmm.
So I don't have to ask my boss for a vacation because I am my own boss, right? You earned your vacation. Why do you have to ask somebody if you can still go, right? You don't
Hmm.
have to.
Hmm.
So tr freedom of time and do what you want to do when you want to do it without asking anybody. Well, except maybe your wife,
Right.
in my case.
Maybe, possibly,
Uh, yeah,
probably, definitely.
is the true wealth, in my opinion. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the next question I have, it's a little bit of a fun one. It's the tolerance for risk assessment, and it's a fill in the blank question. So Vlad, there are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. What's too risky for you, Vlad?
Um, Too risky. Probably investing in cars or something like that. When
Hmm.
people buying, all these crazy cars, because unless they're real true classics that can appreciate, it's all a waste of money.
Hmm.
And I don't know, what's too risky? I don't know, buying houses in New York.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of tough when you're basically living in a place where they think that you don't actually get to own the stuff that you buy, and that's a tough one. But yeah, with cars, I've heard a motivation. Some people they end up buying the luxury cars or like the hyper cars, Ferraris and Lamborghinis, because they actually do appreciate in value because they're all limited edition. That was pretty wild. I'm still there with you as far as like cars. It just seems like if they're too easy to get smashed up or become
Exactly.
like
Stolen.
exactly stolen, exactly cost of just ownership. It's like unless you're like renting them out, and even then it's not really that great of a business model. But
Rent. If it, who said that? I forgot. If it flies, drives, or floats, you rent it.
yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's a beautiful idea. So that is why we are in commercial real estate. And in every single episode of Chance Encounters, I go through the 6 different sides of the commercial competency cube that you get from dandoesdeals.com. It's got the 6 different major roles. You can print out your own copy from dandoesdeals.com. And I don't even ask for your email address, which is like the dumbest thing you could possibly do when it comes to marketing. You always ask for contact information, but I have it for free so you can download and print it out because I want to make sure that you have the ability to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate and also understand how my guest fits into these deals. So in every single episode, I go through all 6 sides. So first, let's talk about the repositioner side. I know Vlad has a lot of repositioner side of what he does, and that means you do a bunch of paperwork, you look at a bunch of different deals, you're an acquisitions person. And what are you doing with this paperwork? Well, there's a fancy word for it. They call it you underwrite the deal. It means you're doing the math, you're doing the arithmetic. The first thing you got to know is like, are the brokers or the sellers, are they actually even telling the truth about how much this property makes? But they call it a repositioner, at least I call them repositioners. It's a little bit of an uncommon term. But the reason is because they're figuring out how can we change the property to find more upside than we have right now. And there are 3 main tools in the repositioner's tool belt to pull that off. First one is you can get more advantageous lending. If you have better banking relationships, better lenders, then you can get a cheaper loan, and that goes basically straight to your bottom line. But let's assume that that's not there. The first place that the repositioner is probably going to look is going to be operations. They're going to make sure that the business as a whole is more efficient, so you don't have these Benjamins going down these toilets. But of course, there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets and mowing lawns and collecting rent and all that kind of fun stuff. There's also one of the marketing pieces, which is one of my fortes. That's to keep the vacancy rate low. There's also other automations you can do to make these different improvements and all that kind of stuff. But because commercial real estate is so competitive, it's pretty often that operations are not going to be enough to find that upside. So they're going to get a contractor team to fix the place up. They do a value add or they do the renovations to make the place nicer. So that way the next tenants will be happy to pay more in rent than the previous one. So they get the upside that side. But building new stuff, fixing up these apartments, it's a very expensive little activity. And so one thing the repositioner might need, which is something that I definitely need, because I don't know if you know this about me, I'm from the internet. So that means I need a local. I need boots on the ground, somebody who can be there in an hour or so, because that's not going to be me. I'd still be stuck at the airport. So you need somebody who can be there at a short notice to take a look at whatever problems come up. But when the repositioner has that team figured out and the property in mind, and turn around to the financier and say, "Hey, I want to buy this property and it's worth tens of millions of dollars." You don't happen to have, say, tens of millions of dollars that you want to lend me, do you? Well, the financier is going to have one other question in their mind, which is, who's the sponsor KP? That's assuming, like, if you don't have a group of people who already are doing this all the time, you're going to need somebody in the fold who already owns a similar asset. Because if you don't, you're not going to be eligible for a commercial loan. So even if you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or something like that, if you want to get a loan, you need somebody who already owns a similar asset. And on top of that, you need a certain amount of liquidity, and you also need a balance sheet among the team of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Vlad, as far as your core competencies go, what do you generally contribute to your deals?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, number one, we look at asset management. That's the most important thing, I think. Where what can we do to get that occupancy way up there? Also, we have to bump up the rents. Also, we have to look at the whole operations where we can implement RUBS. We can charge pet rent or move-in fees, stuff like that. So any little thing helps. I mean, if you include RUBS, it might, yeah, which is a utility bill-back
Mhm.
system. You can charge people $20, but if you add all that up amongst everybody and add the cap rate to it, it's like a couple of $1 million right there. It
Right.
might seem insignificant, but overall, in grand scheme of things, it's huge. So absolutely, I'm mostly responsible for asset management, where I'm speaking with property manager and sometimes even, speaking with them too much. And I have to let them go a little bit. But yeah, uh, we usually buy BC type of assets, and we bring up the value with renovations and hike up the rent that way.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it's a whole team
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
that does it. But that's just my thing.
Yeah, great. I love what you're saying, and I do think that landlords in general, we have a little bit of a public relations issue, and one of them is because, like, we give off the impression that we're nickel and diming people. It's like, oh well, do we pick the one that's an extra $2.50 a month, or do we pick the one that's like a $1.25 instead? And it really does seem like, we're just being tightwads. But when you know the math and know that, it's the monthly, the net operating income that really dictates what the value of the property is. It's a totally different game. Like, it's, you see these little tiny amounts and just dollar signs are just lighting up in our eyes, and it's a funny kind of situation. But
Yeah.
you already mentioned the B and C class properties, and the next section that we always talk about is the buy box or the ideal property. And when commercial investors are talking about an ideal property or a buy box, they're really talking about three main things. First one's geography. So which states, which counties, possibly even which neighborhood. I know Vlad already mentioned a few of those. Second one's going to be size. We're primarily talking about multifamily commercial, and so we're talking about unit counts is how you figure out the size of the property, because frankly, if somebody's taking down like 15 or 50 unit apartment complexes, they're not going to be taking down 500 unit complexes, because it's just a completely different beast. And the teams are going to be bigger, all sorts of differences, right? So the size is going to be important. Other forms of commercial, they go off of square footage, like industrial or whatever. But the third thing, it's called class. And there's two different meanings for the word class, and even though they use the same word. So the first meaning has to do with the condition of the building. So is it old or is it up to date? Is it, no frills, or is it lavish? Okay, that's the first meaning of class. Now, the second meaning of class has to do with the neighborhood where the property is located. So then the question is, what are the school districts like? What's the crime rate like? And both of those meanings of class are rated the same way as in grade school, where it'll be like an A plus or an A minus or a B plus and stuff like that. So, Vlad, as far as the properties that are easier to say yes to, more difficult to say no to, I know you've given a bunch of geography and information already, but sometimes we have virtual assistants who need to write it down. So recap for the VAs.
Yeah, I look for 1980s and up vintage. Size, before I was looking up to 150 units because our team was very small and we were thinking how much in capital can we raise or can get a loan for. But now I connected with huge investors and primarily in Texas, and we can take down as high as 400 doors. In fact, right now we're in the process of purchasing 419 doors in Dallas. It's a $50 million apartment building, so the sky's the limit as long as you got the right team in place. Team is the key here.
Right.
Because think about it this way, right? If you have a small team and you have a large project, you won't be able to take it down. Add more people to it, you will be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to location, yeah, I won't touch anything below C minus.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too dangerous. Some people like it or prefer it. I don't. Um, when it comes to apartments, it's BC because I can add some value to them
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
hike up the rents, increase them, and then increase that NOI with doing operations and improving the place. Period. So when it comes to locality, I'm looking in San Antonio, Houston,
Mm-hmm.
big cities, Kansas City. Recently looked in Sarasota, purchased 7 units there, and we're gonna rezone and develop 96.
Cool.
And very cute little towns like Boone, North Carolina. We literally bought a whole block. Somebody even joked to rename it Vladville, but I'm like, hey, listen, there's more people there. I can't. But even though I liked it, I like the idea. But instead of buying one house, like most people think of, we bought 19. We bought the whole block. They're brand new, and we're gonna Airbnb half, and the other one will be long-term rentals. So, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Right.
Safety, especially in this market. So,
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's the numbers that are really going to do a lot of the talking by the sounds of it. Then, so that's cool. As far as people, though, my favorite thing about commercial real estate is that because it's multifaceted and you got these multiple different roles, people are so eager to give more referrals and build more teams, and they're so friendly. But even though everybody's so eager to help each other out, we're all, because of our unique skill sets, we're better suited to help some people more than others. The sponsors and KPs are the people who I've always been looking out for because of my marketing and CRM background. You need to have a rather substantial list before a guy like me is like a real, exponential difference. So those are the guys who I can help more than anybody else. Vlad, I don't know. I recall that 400 odd unit one was a 506C, which means
see.
it's okay to go ahead and entice investors. But if you have a 506B, then it's not wise to be enticing investors. But who are you best suited to help in commercial real estate? Who's the best person to reach out?
Right now, what I'm working on is building up my investor list. I need a solid list of investors that
Mm-hmm.
are looking to invest in the properties, and also building out my CRM where I am reaching actually out direct to seller
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people are afraid of cold calling or texting or just calling. So I think the best deals are to be found when you go direct. You bypass everybody else, so
Bingo.
there's no
Bingo.
competition.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on right now. So what I'm looking, my biggest thing that people can help me with investors and bring me deals, and we'll take them down together. There is no I here. Everybody's doing it together. You bring me a deal, you're going to be a GP on a deal.
Excellent. I love that. I love what you're saying there because I do think it's so important for people to get their heads around that. And like I do see people, they're trying to systematize that cold outreach. They're trying to give it to other people, but like it just screams that that's either going to be your bottleneck, or you're going to basically have a cash cow who is going to realize, hey, wait a second, there's no reason why I should continue doing this for Vlad, when I could be doing it for myself or something like that. So I do think like everybody does need to take on the responsibility to do more for themselves. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. But if people want to reach out to you, LinkedIn is a great way to reach me because I got a distinct last name. The QR code here, if you scan that goes to the FAQ page of 506 BME, which is where I offer chief compliance officer services for your business for as little as $497 a year. But Vlad, if people want to reach out to you, what are the best platforms or websites or whatever to get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, it doesn't get any more uniquer than my last name either. So,
Right.
Vlad Arakcheyev, I'm everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can also email me. You can do vlad.arakcheyev@gmail.com or just look me up on social media. I'm all over it. So yeah, I'm
Excellent.
looking forward to connecting with everybody.
For sure, for sure. Excellent. And so the only thing left then, it's actually not for you, Vlad, it's for you in the audience, which is it's kind of a public service announcement. If you've been noticing migraine system like searing in your eyeballs and like pain or something, it's probably because there's a big ugly red button under my left hand here. It says subscribe on it. And if you click on it, it'll turn into the beautiful gray button of tranquility. I love the gray one. You got to see it. It's fantastic. It's really amazing. It costs you nothing at all either. And but it does have a magical power. If there are enough people with the gray button of tranquility, then YouTube will actually start to pay for these videos instead of me, which is kind of what I'm after here. And I really appreciate that as a favor. But all it really does is it means that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you can go ahead and ignore those. I just appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Vlad, I appreciate that you spent this time with me. It's been great getting to know you a little bit better, Vlad.
Yeah, you too, absolutely. Not that we don't see each other, I don't know, like 5 times a week, but okay, yeah, it's fine.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's really stretching the definition of a chance encounter. It like wasn't exactly chance at all, but hey, it was a pretty awesome time. Thanks a lot, Vlad.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dan.
Awesome. Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay, are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.